Hello, my name is Jack, and today, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the impact of climate change on agriculture. So, agriculture essentially just means farming. So, how is the effect of climate change, i.e. the temperature of the earth, rising? How does that affect agriculture around the world? Because it's a very interesting issue which we're beginning to see the effects of. Maybe 20 and 30 years ago, people began to talk about how it could affect agriculture, the earth heating up, and now in the 21st century, we're actually beginning to see it. So it's something worth talking about and something worth being aware of. So it's also different depending on which country we're talking about as well. So if I give the example of here in England, the temperature of the earth going up actually means that it's wetter here. We get more rain. There's more rain in the UK because the earth's temperature has risen. And this is not great for living here. I mean, nobody likes the rain really, or at least in England. We have too much of it. We don't like it. But I guess there are some countries in the world that could do with the extra rain. Maybe they need the rain. But it has some effects. So obviously, it's very easy to grow things in the UK because we get lots of rain. Our soil, our earth, is very, very fertile. So we can grow lots of things. The only thing that prevents us from growing some things is that we don't get a lot of heat in the UK. It's not very hot, so some types of fruit and stuff we can't grow, but most vegetables, things like that, we can grow very well. The problem with getting lots and lots of rain is that sometimes it floods. Sometimes it floods. And in the past, these floods were very necessary because what it would do is the floods would flood the land, and when the flood was over, all of the minerals, all of the nutrients and the minerals from the water would be left in the earth. And as a result of that, the soil, the earth became very fertile. It would be very, very good for growing things. But because there is more rain, the frequency of the floods will grow. And this means actually, if you have already planted your crops, if you've already planted them and they're beginning to grow, the flood will destroy them. The flood will destroy crops. And this is something that happened, I think earlier this year, if I remember correctly. There was a lot of flooding in England. And as a result, lots and lots of crops were destroyed. And it meant that farmers lost a lot of money. It meant that farmers were losing money. And this obviously is quite bad because in the UK, at least, farming has been a profession where money has been leaving the profession. I think that's the easiest way to say it. It's not a profession that is growing in terms of income. As far as I know, I'm not an expert in farming and things like that. But from what I've read in the news and from things I've heard, it sounds as though the farming industry is losing money each year. Maybe that's wrong, I don't actually know. All I know is that the floods destroying the crops is not going to help the industry. And as a result, it means that the UK has less food. We have less food and we have to buy food from other countries. And this, as a result, means that the UK will be poorer because we are spending more money to feed people rather than growing it ourselves. So this obviously is a negative impact of climate change on UK agriculture. But in other countries, it's probably very different. For example, I know in Spain, they are having shortages of water. And I think you can say the same for California in America. These are places that don't have lots of water. It's very possible that in the drier months, these countries or these places can actually run out of water. And if you don't have water, it becomes very, very hard. It becomes very difficult to grow things. So these countries face a very different problem, and probably a worse problem than the UK faces, because it can't even begin to grow things, or the crops that it can grow often aren't very easy to farm. They're more difficult, and they're not usually things that you can feed a nation with. They're often like fruits and things like this, which are good, but not something that a whole nation can live on. What else? I think South America is also something which is going to be changing a lot, given the effects of climate change, because it's a two-way thing. Lots and lots of the Amazon rainforest is being cut down in order to breed cattle. And also to make farms. So you're cutting down the Amazon rainforest, which is contributing to climate change. And as a result of climate change, the places where you're building your farms and raising your cattle are becoming less inhabitable. They're becoming less hospitable. So I think this really is a spiraling problem, if you could say. It's something that in itself is contributing to itself, if that makes sense. And obviously, I'm not an expert on farming in South America. I don't know an awful lot of it. But what I do know is that naturally, the land in rainforests, the land in jungles and rainforests, isn't very fertile. It's very hard to grow crops and things like this. In order to make the land fertile, you have to burn things. You have to either burn the land or burn the plants on the land in order to grow things. So this obviously is not very beneficial for the climate. It burns the forest and it eradicates parts of the forest. And you think, this is bad. This is obviously quite a bad thing. But I don't know. The question is, how do you stop it? How do you change it to be done in a better way? Because the human population is growing and we need to eat. We need to eat, so we need farms to grow crops and raise cattle and do other things like this. So what are we going to do? One of the main things people say is sustainable farming. So farming in a way that doesn't destroy the land that your farm is on. Something that can be maintained for a long time. you have this, and also changes in the way that people eat. So some people say that we should move away from eating meat because it takes a lot of land. It takes lots and lots of land to raise the cattle. And I can understand this. I can understand it because, yeah, one, cattle contributes to greenhouse gases. It contributes to global warming. It contributes to global warming by increasing the amount of greenhouse gases in the planet. And also it contributes by removing rainforests. People cut down rainforests to make farms for cattle. So it contributes in two ways. And if we did move away from eating meat, perhaps this would help to save the problem or solve the problem. But this obviously is a very, very difficult thing to convince billions of people on. Lots of people eat meat, lots of people like meat, and I think really we would have to find a more sustainable way to continue eating meat rather than eradicate it completely. People say like lab-grown meat, so growing meat in a science lab could work, but obviously this is still years away from being something that could actually be done. But I don't know, it's a bit of a strange topic, and it's something which no one individual has power over. It's something that has to be done as a collective to be changed. So, I don't know, tell me in the comments below, how do you feel about this issue? What do you think people can do in order to help? And yeah, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.